Have you ever felt the sting of a door closing so hard it seemed to echo inside your chest? That heavy, sinking feeling when someone says no, when a dream slips through your fingers, or when the world seems to whisper that you're not enough. Rejection hits deeper than we often admit. It doesn't just challenge our plans, it challenges our identity. It makes us question our worth, our choices, and even our purpose. And in that moment, everything can feel small, fragile, and impossible. But what if I told you that this pain, raw as it is, holds a secret, a hidden doorway to strength, clarity, and transformation that almost no one sees? Rejection feels personal because it activates the same areas of the brain as physical pain. Your body reacts as if you've been hurt, as if someone has actually wounded you. The heart races, the stomach tightens, the mind spins, and suddenly every thought is a critique, every memory a reminder of your failures. It can make you feel alone, like no one else has faced this, like you are stranded in your own fear. And that feeling, intense, raw, unbearable at times, it can convince you to shrink, to hide, to stop trying altogether. But here's the truth. This reaction, while powerful, is not permanent. It is not a verdict on your future. It is a signal. Every person you admire, every story of triumph you have ever felt inspired by is built on the foundation of rejection. Not despite it, but because of it. The no's they faced, the doors that slammed in their faces, the doubt that tried to paralyze them, all of it became fuel. Painful, yes. Brutally honest, yes. But also incredibly revealing. Rejection strips away what isn't essential, forcing clarity on what truly matters. It exposes weaknesses, illuminates gaps, and presents an opportunity to rebuild stronger, smarter, and more determined than before. You might be thinking, that's easy to say, but it still hurts. And it does, it should. Pain is not a sign of weakness. It's proof that you care deeply, that you're reaching for something meaningful. And that is exactly why you must stay with this journey. Because on the other side of this discomfort is a transformation waiting to happen. If you let your mind shift even slightly, you can begin to see rejection not as a wall, but as a guide pointing toward growth, toward resilience, toward a version of yourself you have yet to meet. Right now, in this moment, your mind holds a choice. You can let rejection shrink you, or you can let it shape you. You can dwell on the loss, or you can extract the lessons that will propel you forward faster than comfort ever could. You can let fear define your next steps, or you can claim courage and move anyway. Every second you stay engaged, every thought you allow to reframe the pain, builds a bridge from despair to empowerment. And by the end of this journey, you won't just understand rejection, you'll own it. You'll know the mindset that turns every no into a stepping stone, every setback into a setup, and every closed door into a pathway toward your most powerful self. The question is simple. Are you ready to see rejection for what it truly is and use it to rise higher than you ever imagined? Because if you stay with this and let these words settle deep into your mind, you will discover that rejection is not the enemy. It is the signal that your next level is waiting. What if the very thing you fear the most is not a judgment of who you are, but a mirror showing what needs attention? Every rejection you face is not a statement of failure. It is feedback, a signal that something can be refined, adjusted, or approached differently. The mind instinctively interprets rejection as a reflection of personal worth, and it is easy to spiral into self-doubt, comparing yourself to others who seem to succeed effortlessly. But that comparison is a trap. Science tells us that our brains are wired to magnify negative experiences, to replay them like a broken record. The no feels louder than it is, the loss feels permanent, and our confidence takes a hit before we even realize what happened. Yet this is precisely where power can be found, in understanding that the pain is not reality, but perception. You have the ability to change that perception, to see each rejection not as an end, but as data. Each closed door carries information about timing, strategy, and alignment. Each setback points to areas where growth is possible. Imagine your mind as a laboratory where experiments are conducted. Every attempt, every failure, every rejection provides raw material for analysis, for discovery, for improvement. The more you embrace this perspective, the more rejection transforms from a source of fear into a source of insight. The mind becomes a tool, not a victim. You stop blaming yourself for circumstances beyond control and start harnessing them to build resilience and precision. When you begin to internalize this, the emotional weight of rejection starts to shift. Instead of a pit of despair, it becomes a teacher's chair offering lessons in patience, preparation, and perspective. You recognize patterns, you understand limits, and you gain clarity about what is within your influence and what is not. This awareness creates freedom. Freedom from the paralyzing question, why me? Freedom from the illusion that approval defines value. Freedom to act boldly, fueled by intelligence rather than fear. And every small action you take using this feedback builds confidence, proving to yourself that your response matters far more than the initial outcome. It is not enough to endure rejection. Endurance alone leaves the mind heavy, tense, and reactive. Transformation comes when you actively reinterpret each no, each failure, each moment of discomfort as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. The brain strengthens pathways through repetition, and when you consistently redirect your thinking, you create a resilient mindset that no external circumstance can easily shake. This is not abstract motivation. It is practical, psychological, and proven. Your inner dialogue, the stories you tell yourself about what rejection means, are entirely under your control. Feel the shift in your body as you imagine it. The tension in your chest loosens, the tightness in your stomach eases, the racing thoughts slow. There is power in that awareness. Every rejection no longer strikes as a blow to your identity. It becomes information, insight, and preparation for what is ahead. You are learning, adjusting, and strengthening without even leaving your seat. You are becoming someone who doesn't just survive rejection, but someone who uses it as a weapon of growth. Each no is not the end of your story. It is the forge that shapes your courage, clarity, and capability. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstance. You are beginning to understand that control is internal, that the mind is malleable, and that the right interpretation can turn pain into fuel, fear into strategy, and loss into opportunity. The door that slammed in your face yesterday is now a blueprint for the door you will open tomorrow, stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. Every rejection you face from this moment forward carries the potential to make you sharper, braver, and more prepared for the life you are determined to claim. Now imagine what happens when you start treating rejection not as a verdict, but as a compass pointing toward growth. When your mind begins to see every no as a guide rather than a judgment, the world changes. Suddenly, setbacks are not traps, but opportunities to refine your vision, to sharpen your strategy, to strengthen your resolve. Your focus shifts from fear to possibility, from loss to discovery. The mind has incredible power to reframe experience, and when you harness it, you take control of the narrative that has been controlling you. Every rejection becomes a lesson carefully designed to elevate you, to test your persistence, and to reveal the strength you already carry within. The difference lies in the mindset you choose. You can interpret rejection as proof that you are inadequate, or you can see it as evidence that you are attempting something meaningful. Neuroscience confirms that growth mindset rewires the brain, building resilience with every challenge faced. When you stop identifying with failure, when you refuse to let external judgments define your worth, you become unstoppable. Pain becomes a tool, fear becomes a signal, and discomfort becomes the fire that tempers your courage. The energy that once weighed you down now fuels every decision, every action, and every pursuit. You begin to act not out of avoidance, but with intention. Think about how this changes your relationship with life itself. Instead of shrinking from challenges, you lean into them. Each rejection stops being a personal attack and starts to feel like a necessary step in a larger process. You start asking the right questions. What can I learn here? How can I grow stronger? Where is the opportunity hidden? These questions are powerful because they shift your focus from what you lost to what you can gain. They activate a part of the brain wired for problem solving and creativity. They transform fear into curiosity and hesitation into action. You stop fearing the moment and start mastering it. Your emotions begin to stabilize. The anxiety that once spiked at the thought of failure eases because you understand that your value is not dependent on approval. The disappointment that once lingered now passes more quickly because you recognize that outcomes are temporary, while skills, knowledge, and resilience are permanent. Every no leaves behind a seed that can grow into confidence, strength, and clarity if you nurture it with the right mindset. You learn to honor your feelings without letting them dictate your actions. You become the observer, the strategist, and the creator all at once. As this awareness settles, your perception of courage transforms. Courage is no longer an abstract ideal, it is a daily practice. To face rejection without crumbling, to persist in spite of doubt, to continue moving forward while others retreat. This is the essence of bravery, and bravery is contagious, spreading through your decisions, your energy, and your presence. Every time you reinterpret rejection, every time you take action in spite of discomfort, you train your mind to withstand even greater challenges. You are not avoiding pain. You are mastering it, bending it to your will, and using it to ascend to levels of performance and fulfillment you previously thought impossible. The truth is simple: rejection is inevitable, but being crushed by it is optional. The mindset you cultivate now determines whether rejection will be a chain that binds you or a spark that ignites your potential. Every no can either define you or refine you, and when you choose refinement, you step into a version of yourself that is relentless, confident, and unshakable. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, you are the architect of your growth, the commander of your courage, and the author of a life that rejection cannot limit. Every rejection you have faced, every no that once felt like a heavy weight on your chest, carries within it a lesson you cannot afford to ignore. The truth is that rejection is not random. It reveals patterns, exposes weaknesses, and highlights areas where growth is required. Your mind, when trained to observe rather than judge, can extract these insights like a treasure hidden within discomfort. Each moment of pain becomes an opportunity to ask sharper questions, to analyze your approach, and to adjust your strategy. The power lies not in avoiding rejection, but in learning to read it, interpret it, and act on it with precision. When you begin to internalize this perspective, the emotional burden of rejection starts to lift. You no longer see it as a reflection of inadequacy, but as a reflection of the journey itself. Every closed door becomes a signal, pointing you toward alignment, toward understanding, toward the next right step. Your thoughts shift from self-criticism to curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you begin to ask, "What can I learn?" This subtle shift is profound because it changes the way your brain responds. Studies in cognitive psychology show that reframing negative experiences rewires the brain for resilience, strengthens neural pathways associated with problem solving, and reduces the emotional sting of setbacks. You are literally changing the structure of your mind with each deliberate choice to see opportunity in adversity. This is where real power emerges, in the ability to transform discomfort into fuel. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. When you view rejection as a tool rather than a verdict, it ignites motivation, sharpens focus, and awakens determination. You begin to operate from a place of control, even when circumstances feel uncontrollable. Each no becomes data. Each obstacle becomes a teacher. Each failure becomes a rehearsal for mastery. You move from reaction to response, from helplessness to agency, and suddenly, the world that once seemed hostile starts to feel like a proving ground, a place where your strength, clarity, and courage can grow unchecked. Your emotions stabilize, your confidence begins to rebuild, and your inner dialogue shifts from doubt to strategy. The fear that once held you back no longer dictates your actions. You recognize that rejection is temporary, but the lessons you extract, the resilience you build, and the courage you cultivate are permanent. You develop a mindset where every challenge becomes an opportunity to refine your skills, to expand your awareness, and to grow closer to the person you are capable of becoming. This is the mental armor that protects you from despair, that allows you to act decisively, and that turns obstacles into stepping stones. As this mindset strengthens, you begin to understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward despite it. Facing rejection becomes a deliberate act of bravery. Persistence becomes a form of empowerment. Every step you take, even when it is met with resistance or denial, is a declaration that you will not be defined by outcomes, but by the strength of your response. You start to see that life's most powerful lessons are hidden within the discomfort you once avoided. The very thing that once seemed unbearable becomes the instrument of your transformation, the forge that shapes resilience, and the doorway to achievement you never imagined possible. You are learning that rejection is not the enemy. It is a guide, a mirror, and a catalyst. It forces clarity, demands growth, and rewards persistence. Every no carries within it a hidden pathway to mastery, and when you choose to embrace it, you step into a version of yourself that is fearless, capable, and unstoppable. The mindset you cultivate now will define every challenge you face moving forward. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstance. You are the architect of your growth, the master of your courage, and the force that converts every setback into an advantage. Every time rejection strikes, your mind presents a choice: succumb to despair or rise with clarity. This is where true transformation begins. You are not defined by the doors that close, the opportunities that slip away, or the voices that say you cannot. You are defined by the decisions you make in the moments immediately after. Every rejection contains information, every failure carries insight, and every challenge presents a chance to strengthen the inner foundation that no one can shake. When you start to see it this way, the emotional pain that once paralyzed you shifts into energy that propels you forward. Your perspective is the key. The human brain naturally focuses on loss, but it is also capable of incredible rewiring. When you consciously interpret rejection as feedback rather than judgment, your neural pathways change. You develop resilience, sharpen focus, and cultivate the mental fortitude that separates those who give up from those who rise relentlessly. Every no you encounter becomes a signal guiding you to refine your approach, to prepare more thoroughly, and to act with intention. The mind learns to translate discomfort into insight and fear into action. You no longer react automatically to rejection, you respond deliberately, strategically, and powerfully. This shift in perception transforms your relationship with failure entirely. Failure is no longer a verdict on your worth. It becomes an experiment, a trial, a teacher. Each setback is a step forward disguised as a misstep. The discomfort that once made you hesitate now alerts you to the areas where growth is possible. The mind begins to crave these challenges because it understands they are building strength, honing skills, and expanding your capacity for achievement. You begin to see rejection not as a stop sign, but as a checkpoint, a moment to assess, adjust, and accelerate toward your ultimate goal. Confidence emerges not from constant success, but from repeated exposure to adversity and the conscious choice to act despite fear. Every time you face a no and keep moving forward, your inner dialogue strengthens. You replace doubt with strategy, worry with preparation, and hesitation with courage. The emotional intensity of rejection begins to diminish because it is no longer a threat to your identity. It becomes a mirror reflecting your potential. You learn to honor your emotions without letting them dictate your actions, turning vulnerability into power. Courage is cultivated through repeated practice, and rejection provides the perfect environment to exercise it. Every encounter with denial is a moment to choose bravery over avoidance, persistence over surrender, and clarity over confusion. Each step you take in spite of discomfort reinforces a neural pattern that increases resilience, sharpens judgment, and solidifies self-trust. You start to operate from a place of inner authority rather than external approval. The mind, once fearful and reactive, becomes proactive and discerning, transforming obstacles into opportunities and setbacks into strategy. As this understanding takes root, you begin to realize the liberating truth: no external circumstance can diminish your worth, slow your progress, or define your future. Rejection is inevitable, but being defeated by it is optional. Your mindset determines whether rejection crushes you or shapes you. Every no can either bind you to fear or propel you to mastery. The power to rise, to persist, and to conquer lies entirely within you. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a force capable of turning every challenge into momentum, every obstacle into a step forward, and every rejection into the foundation of unstoppable growth. Every rejection you face is a test of your focus, your clarity, and your willingness to rise above the noise of doubt. The mind instinctively magnifies each missed opportunity, making it feel heavier than it actually is. It wants you to believe that the outcome defines your worth. But the truth is deeper, stronger, and far more liberating. Outcomes are temporary, but the mindset you cultivate is permanent. Each time you choose to interpret rejection as feedback rather than judgment, you build a mental framework that cannot be shaken by circumstance. You are learning to see beyond the immediate pain, to see the hidden path that leads toward growth, power, and achievement. This perspective changes everything. Pain transforms from a signal of defeat into a guidepost pointing the way forward. Every closed door is not a stop sign, it is a redirection, an invitation to refine your approach, to adjust your strategy, and to step with greater awareness. Neuroscience confirms that when you consciously reframe setbacks, your brain strengthens the circuits that support resilience, problem solving, and emotional regulation. You begin to experience rejection not as an assault on your identity, but as a tool designed to sharpen your skill, your focus, and your courage. Every no becomes a lesson you can act upon immediately, a blueprint for improvement, and a spark that ignites determination. Your emotions, once pulled downward by fear and disappointment, start to stabilize. Anxiety loosens its grip, and clarity begins to emerge. You learn to separate the event from your self-worth, recognizing that rejection does not define you, it informs you. This awareness creates freedom, freedom to act decisively, freedom to take risks, freedom to embrace challenges without hesitation. Each moment of discomfort becomes an opportunity to prove to yourself that you are stronger than your fears. You are learning that mastery of the mind is the foundation of every accomplishment, and the ability to rise after rejection is the gateway to your most powerful self. Confidence grows not from luck, but from deliberate exposure to adversity and the conscious choice to move forward despite fear. Each no you encounter is an exercise in courage, persistence, and resilience. Your inner dialogue shifts from doubt to strategy, from hesitation to preparation, from fear to bold action. The intensity of rejection diminishes because it no longer threatens your identity. It becomes a mirror reflecting your potential, a challenge to rise above, and a signal that you are stepping into a higher version of yourself. The mind that once trembled at denial now sharpens in clarity and determination, seeing obstacles as information, setbacks as strategy, and failure as a guide. Courage is built through practice, and rejection provides the perfect environment to exercise it. Every moment of discomfort, every challenge met despite hesitation, strengthens the neural pathways that underpin resilience, self-trust, and decisiveness. You begin to understand that control is internal, that your value cannot be diminished by external circumstances, and that every rejection carries within it the opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. You are learning to bend adversity to your will, to convert fear into fuel, and to use each obstacle as a stepping stone toward mastery. Rejection no longer has the power to stop you because you have chosen the lens through which it is viewed. It is no longer a punishment, but a teacher, no longer a limit, but a guide, no longer a source of doubt, but a source of clarity. Every no strengthens your resolve, refines your strategy, and builds the foundation for unstoppable growth. You are becoming someone who does not simply endure rejection. You are becoming someone who thrives because of it. Your mindset is now the engine that transforms setbacks into momentum, challenges into opportunity, and every barrier into a path toward the life you are determined to claim. Every rejection you encounter is a doorway to greater clarity, a moment that tests the strength of your resolve and the focus of your vision. It is natural to feel the weight of disappointment, to feel your chest tighten and your mind replay the moment over and over, questioning what you did wrong, who you are, or whether you are enough. But that reaction, intense as it may be, is not a reflection of your value. It is the mind processing challenge, alerting you to growth that is ready to be claimed. The pain signals attention, and the discomfort signals opportunity. The difference lies in how you respond. You can allow the experience to crush you, or you can choose to extract insight, to reframe it, and to move forward with deliberate strength. When you begin to see rejection as information rather than judgment, you unlock power that most people never realize exists. Your mind begins to reinterpret adversity, turning obstacles into lessons and setbacks into data points for refinement. Each no becomes a tool for sharpening your focus, honing your strategy, and strengthening your resilience. Neuroscience proves that the brain adapts to repeated challenges, rewiring itself to respond more effectively to stress, fear, and uncertainty. By consciously reframing rejection, you engage the mental circuits that transform discomfort into growth, hesitation into action, and doubt into unshakable clarity. Every rejection becomes a chance to practice mastery over your own mind. This understanding transforms fear into purpose. The anxiety that once held you back eases because you recognize that rejection is temporary, while the lessons it carries are permanent. Each closed door is no longer a verdict against you. It is a signal pointing toward the next right step, an invitation to adapt, learn, and push harder. Your emotions settle because you understand that self-worth does not hinge on external validation. You begin to feel the quiet strength of self-trust, the stability that comes when you anchor your confidence internally rather than in approval from others. The mind that once recoiled from failure now approaches it with precision, curiosity, and determination. Confidence grows with each deliberate act of persistence. Every time you face rejection and continue forward, you train your mind to operate from agency instead of fear. Doubt is replaced by strategy, hesitation by preparation, and worry by action. You no longer wait for permission to succeed. You create your own momentum. Each obstacle, each rejection reinforces a pattern of resilience, teaching you that power is not found in outcomes, but in the way you respond to them. This is the mental armor that protects you from despair, that strengthens your resolve, and that allows you to operate with clarity even under pressure. Courage becomes habitual. Facing rejection becomes a practice, not an event. Each time you confront discomfort, instead of fleeing it, each time you move despite fear, you solidify neural pathways that increase perseverance, self-control, and strategic thinking. You begin to realize that adversity is not a threat to your progress, but the exact environment in which your strength is forged. Every challenge you embrace refines your skill, hones your judgment, and fortifies the mindset that allows you to thrive in the face of uncertainty. You are learning that rejection does not have the power to define you unless you allow it. Each no is now a guide, a teacher, and a spark of opportunity. The path forward is no longer dictated by fear, hesitation, or self-doubt. It is guided by insight, courage, and relentless determination. You are becoming someone who does not simply endure setbacks. You are becoming someone who uses them as leverage, someone whose mindset converts every barrier into a step forward, and someone who thrives because they have chosen to rise above the weight of rejection and claim the life that was waiting for them all along. Every rejection you face is an invitation to take control of your mind, your emotions, and your future. It is a moment where most people surrender to fear, self-doubt, and despair, allowing the world to define their limits. But you are learning that your response determines everything. The mind has the extraordinary capacity to transform adversity into insight, and every no becomes a lesson in strategy, resilience, and strength. Each setback is a signal, a message urging you to adjust, to refine, and to act with clarity. The difference between those who thrive and those who falter is the ability to see rejection as feedback rather than judgment. This understanding changes the way you perceive failure. No longer is it a verdict on your worth, it becomes an experiment, a tool to test your approach and strengthen your capacity. Your brain begins to rewire itself with every deliberate choice to reinterpret rejection. Neuroscience confirms that the circuits controlling resilience, emotional regulation, and problem solving grow stronger when you repeatedly face discomfort and respond with intention. You are not simply enduring pain. You are building a mind capable of withstanding pressure, adapting to challenge, and extracting opportunity from every obstacle. Every no becomes a stepping stone, every closed door a lesson in alignment, and every moment of disappointment a source of insight that prepares you for what comes next. As your perspective shifts, the emotional weight of rejection begins to ease. The anxiety that once gripped you loosens, the tension that once held you back relaxes, and clarity begins to emerge. You recognize that self-worth is not dictated by approval or outcome, it is anchored internally, strengthened by persistence, courage, and deliberate focus. Each no stops being a personal attack and becomes a guidepost pointing toward growth. The mind that once feared failure now approaches it with calculated courage, seeing the hidden opportunity in every challenge. Fear is no longer a signal to retreat. It is a signal to prepare, adapt, and advance. Confidence grows through repeated action. Each time you move forward despite rejection, your mind strengthens its patterns of resilience, courage, and self-trust. Doubt is replaced with strategy, hesitation with preparation, and worry with decisive action. The energy that once kept you frozen is redirected toward growth, purpose, and forward momentum. You begin to operate from agency rather than reaction, understanding that the power to shape your life is internal, not dictated by external circumstances. Rejection becomes a catalyst for mastery, and every step you take in the face of it reinforces your capacity to succeed. Courage becomes habitual. Facing rejection transforms from a sporadic act into a practiced skill. Each challenge you confront, each discomfort you embrace, each moment you choose action over avoidance strengthens your neural pathways, fortifying the mental resilience that allows you to thrive under pressure. Adversity is no longer an obstacle. It is the environment in which your strength is forged, your insight sharpened, and your potential revealed. Every no is a test, and every test you pass expands your capacity for achievement, clarity, and unstoppable momentum. Rejection does not define you, your response does. Every denial, every closed door, every moment of discomfort is a chance to prove your strength, sharpen your focus, and refine your strategy. You are becoming someone who does not merely survive rejection. You are becoming someone who uses it as leverage, who turns every challenge into opportunity, and who rises relentlessly toward the life that is waiting for them. The mindset you cultivate now is the engine that transforms every setback into forward motion, every obstacle into a bridge, and every rejection into the foundation of unshakable growth. Every moment you feel the sting of rejection, you are presented with a choice to shrink under its weight or to rise with purpose. That choice is yours alone, and it shapes everything about your life. Rejection is not a verdict on your worth. It is a signal, a guide, a piece of information designed to redirect your energy, focus, and strategy. The pain you feel is real, but it is not permanent. It is not a reflection of who you are. It is a spark, calling you to sharpen your mind, strengthen your resolve, and step forward with courage and clarity. When you begin to see rejection as feedback rather than failure, your entire relationship with challenge changes. Each no becomes a tool, each obstacle becomes a teacher, and every setback becomes a chance to grow stronger and wiser. Neuroscience confirms that the brain adapts to repeated challenge. Each time you choose to face discomfort, your mind rewires itself for resilience, focus, and emotional regulation. You are not simply enduring rejection, you are transforming it into a weapon of progress, a fuel for growth, and a foundation for mastery. Every denial you face now becomes a step forward, a lesson learned, and a signal pointing you toward your next right action. This shift in perception changes how your emotions respond. The tension in your chest eases, the racing thoughts in your mind begin to calm, and clarity emerges from the fog of disappointment. Anxiety and fear no longer dictate your choices because you understand that outcomes are temporary, but the strength, skills, and mindset you develop in response to rejection are permanent. Self-worth is no longer tethered to external validation. You begin to feel the quiet, unshakable power that comes from internal certainty, the understanding that your value is inherent, not granted. Confidence grows with every deliberate action taken in spite of rejection. Each step you take forward, even when faced with hesitation, reinforces a neural pattern of courage, resilience, and self-trust. Doubt is replaced with strategy, hesitation with preparation, and fear with clarity. The energy that once held you back is now redirected into focus, determination, and forward momentum. You learn that the mind, when trained to respond with intention, becomes a powerhouse capable of turning obstacles into opportunities, setbacks into insights, and discomfort into growth. Courage is forged in repeated confrontation with rejection. Every time you face discomfort, every time you act despite uncertainty, you reinforce the pathways of resilience, decisiveness, and emotional strength. Adversity is no longer a threat. It becomes the environment in which your power is strengthened, your judgment sharpened, and your potential revealed. Every closed door, every denied opportunity, every moment of struggle becomes a practice ground for mastery, conditioning your mind to rise relentlessly, to move with precision, and to act with unshakable confidence. Rejection does not define you, your mindset does. Every denial, every closed door, every moment of discomfort is a chance to demonstrate your strength, refine your strategy, and expand your capacity for achievement. You are becoming someone who does not merely survive setbacks. You are becoming someone who converts them into leverage, who transforms every challenge into momentum, and who rises relentlessly toward the life that is waiting for them. Every rejection you face now becomes a catalyst, building an unshakable foundation of growth, courage, and unstoppable forward motion that cannot be denied. Every rejection you experience is not a mark of your limitations. It is an opportunity to sharpen your focus, strengthen your courage, and refine the version of yourself that is rising beneath the surface. The discomfort you feel is real, but it does not control you. Your response does. Every no contains a lesson, a direction, and a chance to grow. The mind that can interpret rejection as information rather than judgment becomes unstoppable because it no longer waits for approval to act, it no longer ties worth to outcomes, and it no longer fears obstacles that were once intimidating. You begin to see that each denial is a guidepost, a signal pointing to where refinement, effort, and clarity are needed most. When you start framing rejection this way, your emotions begin to shift. The fear that once froze you loosens. The disappointment that once lingered dissolves more quickly. You no longer allow a single moment to dictate the state of your mind or the trajectory of your life. Instead, you anchor your confidence internally, understanding that self-worth is a choice you make every day, independent of external validation. The tension in your chest eases, your thoughts stabilize, and a quiet clarity emerges. You realize that rejection is temporary, but the mindset you cultivate in response is enduring. This perspective transforms hesitation into action. The energy that once pulled you backward is now redirected into forward motion. You begin to approach challenges deliberately, analyzing what can be learned, adjusting your approach, and stepping forward with focus and determination. Doubt is replaced with strategy, fear with preparation, and anxiety with clarity. Every rejection you face becomes a rehearsal for resilience, a training ground for courage, and a laboratory for insight. The mind learns to extract opportunity from every obstacle and to see every setback as a necessary step toward mastery. Confidence grows with each deliberate act of persistence. Each time you choose to act in spite of a no, your brain reinforces pathways that strengthen courage, decisiveness, and self-trust. You begin to operate from agency rather than reaction, understanding that your power lies in your response, not in the approval or denial of others. Rejection stops being a threat and becomes a tool. You learn that adversity is the environment in which strength, clarity, and mastery are forged. Every discomfort you face becomes a chance to practice control over your mind, emotions, and actions. Courage becomes habitual. Each confrontation with rejection strengthens your ability to act boldly, persist relentlessly, and respond with clarity. Every denied opportunity becomes a teacher, every closed door a guide, and every challenge a test that you are passing with increasing skill and resilience. The energy that once fed fear now fuels growth, focus, and unshakable determination. You begin to see that obstacles are not barriers, but stepping stones, each one preparing you for the next level of achievement, insight, and personal power. Rejection does not define your life, your response defines it. Every denial, every challenge, every moment of discomfort is a chance to prove your strength, refine your strategy, and expand your capacity for greatness. You are becoming someone who does not merely survive setbacks. You are becoming someone who transforms them into momentum, who rises relentlessly, and who uses every challenge to build an unshakable foundation of courage, clarity, and unstoppable forward motion. Each rejection is no longer a limitation, it is a spark that ignites the highest version of yourself. Every rejection you encounter is a test of your focus, your clarity, and your willingness to rise above fear. It is not an indictment of your worth, but a signal of growth. The mind instinctively interprets rejection as failure, as proof that you are not enough. It wants you to shrink, to hide, to retreat. But you are learning that this perception is a choice. Every no carries information, insight, and opportunity. It is a challenge, not a judgment. The power lies in how you respond, how you reinterpret the experience, and how you channel the energy it produces into forward motion. When you see rejection as guidance rather than condemnation, your perspective transforms. The tension that once gripped your chest begins to ease. The doubt that once dominated your thoughts starts to fade. You recognize that outcomes are temporary, while the mindset you build in response is permanent. Self-worth becomes internal, anchored in effort, clarity, and persistence, not in external approval. The mind that once recoiled from failure now approaches it with curiosity, strategy, and deliberate courage. Fear is no longer a signal to stop. It is a signal to prepare, to analyze, and to act with focus. This shift in perception turns hesitation into decisive action. The energy that once drained you becomes fuel for persistence. Every rejection becomes a tool, every obstacle a lesson, every discomfort an opportunity to strengthen your mental resilience. Your brain adapts, rewiring itself to respond more effectively to stress, adversity, and uncertainty. The mind that once froze under pressure now sees every setback as a rehearsal for mastery, every denial as a stepping stone toward greater achievement, and every challenge as a signal that your potential is expanding. Confidence grows with every deliberate choice to act in spite of discomfort. Each time you move forward despite a no, your neural pathways reinforce courage, self-trust, and decisiveness. Doubt is replaced by strategy, hesitation by preparation, and fear by clarity. You begin to operate from agency rather than reaction, understanding that the power to shape your life resides entirely in your response. Rejection becomes a tool for growth rather than a weapon against you, and every challenge you face strengthens the foundation of resilience and clarity that carries you forward. Courage is forged in repeated confrontation with adversity. Each encounter with rejection strengthens your capacity to act boldly, persist relentlessly, and respond with insight. Every denied opportunity is a teacher, every closed door a guide, and every uncomfortable moment a practice ground for mastery. The energy that once fed fear now fuels focus, determination, and unshakable resolve. You begin to see that obstacles are not barriers, but instruments of progress, each one preparing you for higher levels of achievement, wisdom, and personal power. Rejection does not define who you are, your response does. Every no, every closed door, every moment of discomfort is a chance to demonstrate strength, refine strategy, and expand your capacity for greatness. You are becoming someone who does not merely endure setbacks. You are becoming someone who transforms them into momentum, who rises relentlessly, and who uses every challenge to build an unshakable foundation of courage, clarity, and unstoppable forward motion. Each rejection is no longer a limitation. It is a spark that ignites the highest version of yourself, a force that propels you toward the life that is waiting for you to claim it. Every rejection you face is an opportunity to reclaim power over your mind, your emotions, and your life. It is not a statement about your value, but a signal about what needs attention, refinement, and growth. The discomfort you feel is real, but it does not control you. Your response does. Each no carries insight, each obstacle carries information, and each closed door carries a hidden path forward. When your mind begins to interpret rejection as guidance rather than judgment, fear loses its grip, doubt begins to dissolve, and clarity emerges. You begin to understand that every setback is a stepping stone, every denial a tool, and every challenge a chance to strengthen the very foundation that will support your future success. The moment you shift your perception, the emotional weight of rejection begins to ease. Anxiety, once overwhelming, becomes manageable. The tension in your chest relaxes, and your thoughts begin to organize themselves with purpose and focus. You start to see that self-worth is not determined by external approval, but by the internal consistency of effort, persistence, and clarity. Each rejection is no longer a threat, but a signal, an alert that points toward areas of opportunity, growth, and refinement. The mind that once recoiled from failure now leans forward, analyzing, learning, and preparing. Fear becomes a guide, not a jailer. This mental shift transforms hesitation into action. Every no you encounter becomes a resource for strategy, a lesson in resilience, and a trigger for deliberate progress. Your brain adapts with each challenge, reinforcing the neural pathways that govern perseverance, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. You no longer operate on autopilot, paralyzed by fear of failure. Instead, you act intentionally, extracting insight from every denial, practicing mastery in every uncomfortable moment, and converting obstacles into instruments of progress. Rejection is no longer something to endure. It is the environment in which your strength and clarity are forged. Confidence grows when action follows awareness. Each step you take, in spite of a no, strengthens self-trust, sharpens judgment, and reinforces courage. Doubt is replaced by strategy, hesitation by preparation, and fear by deliberate focus. You begin to understand that the outcome is secondary. The true measure of progress lies in how you respond, how you learn, and how you persist. Every rejection reinforces the internal framework that allows you to rise, adapt, and excel. The energy that once fed fear now fuels forward momentum, transforming discomfort into power and uncertainty into clarity. Courage becomes habitual, forged through repeated confrontation with adversity. Every denied opportunity, every closed door, every uncomfortable moment strengthens your resolve and expands your capacity for decisive action. Adversity becomes a training ground, not a punishment. Each challenge you face becomes a rehearsal for mastery, each setback a lesson in strategy, and each discomfort a forge for mental strength. You begin to understand that obstacles are not limitations. They are instruments of growth, preparing you for higher levels of achievement, insight, and personal power. Rejection does not define who you are, your mindset does. Every denial, every obstacle, every moment of discomfort is a chance to demonstrate strength, refine your approach, and expand your capacity for greatness. You are becoming someone who does not merely survive setbacks. You are becoming someone who transforms them into momentum, who rises relentlessly, and who uses every challenge to build an unshakable foundation of courage, clarity, and unstoppable forward motion. Every no you face is no longer a limitation. It is a spark that ignites the highest, most powerful version of yourself, a force that drives you toward the life that is ready and waiting for you to claim. Every rejection you face is not a reflection of your inadequacy. It is a challenge calling you to rise, to focus, and to refine your power. The mind instinctively magnifies denial, making each no feel heavier than it truly is. It wants you to shrink, to doubt, to retreat. But you are learning to respond differently. You are learning that each rejection carries information, each obstacle contains opportunity, and each closed door points toward growth. When the mind reframes rejection as guidance rather than judgment, fear begins to loosen its grip, doubt fades, and clarity emerges. You see that every setback is a step forward, every challenge a chance to build resilience, and every moment of discomfort a tool to strengthen your future self. As this understanding takes root, the emotional intensity of rejection begins to change. Anxiety eases, tension in your body loosens, and your thoughts begin to organize with purpose. Self-worth no longer depends on external approval. Each rejection becomes a signal, pointing to areas for refinement, adjustment, and deliberate action. The mind that once recoiled from failure now leans in, analyzing, learning, and preparing. Fear is no longer a jailer. It is a guide, an indicator of the next area where courage, insight, and growth can be exercised. The discomfort that once held you back now becomes fuel for action, focus, and transformation. This shift in perspective converts hesitation into decisive movement. Each no you encounter becomes a resource for strategy, a lesson in resilience, and a trigger to act with intention. Neuroscience confirms that repeated engagement with adversity strengthens the brain's circuits for problem solving, emotional regulation, and persistence. You are no longer reactive, paralyzed by the fear of failure. Instead, you act deliberately, extracting insight from every denial, practicing mastery in every uncomfortable moment, and turning obstacles into instruments of progress. Rejection becomes the environment in which your strength, clarity, and power are forged. Confidence grows when action follows awareness. Each time you move forward despite rejection, neural pathways associated with courage, decisiveness, and self-trust strengthen. Doubt is replaced with strategy, hesitation with preparation, and fear with clarity. Outcomes no longer define you, your response does. Every rejection reinforces the internal framework that allows you to rise, adapt, and excel. The energy that once fed fear now drives momentum, transforming discomfort into power, uncertainty into focus, and denial into opportunity. Courage becomes a habit. Repeated confrontation with adversity builds resilience, sharpens judgment, and expands capacity for decisive action. Every denied opportunity, every closed door, every moment of discomfort strengthens your ability to move forward with precision, clarity, and persistence. Adversity is no longer a limitation, It is the environment in which your strength is refined. Each challenge becomes a rehearsal for mastery, each setback a lesson in strategy, and each moment of struggle a forge for mental toughness. Obstacles are no longer barriers. They are instruments that prepare you for higher levels of achievement, insight, and personal power. Rejection does not define who you are. Your mindset does. Every no, every closed door, every moment of discomfort is an opportunity to demonstrate strength, refine strategy, and expand your capacity for greatness. You are becoming someone who does not simply survive setbacks. You are becoming someone who converts them into momentum, who rises relentlessly, and who uses every challenge to build an unshakable foundation of courage, clarity, and unstoppable forward motion. Every rejection is no longer a limitation. It is a spark that ignites the highest version of yourself, a force propelling you toward the life that is ready and waiting for you to claim. Every rejection you face is a signal, a guide, and an opportunity to reclaim power over your mind and your life. It is not proof of inadequacy, nor is it a measure of your potential. The sting you feel is real, but it does not dictate your path. Your response does. Every no contains insight. Every obstacle carries information, and every closed door points toward growth.